is Focus with Jack Caudill.
Good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome to this month's edition of Focus. This month we're talking about National Preparedness Month, which is September, as it is every year. Three guests with us to talk about that tonight. Cari Leidholt, she is the preparedness team leader for the South Dakota Office of Emergency Management. Alexa White is the deputy director of Pennington County Emergency Management. And Jeff Johnson, a senior forecaster with the National Weather Service here in Rapid City. As I mentioned, September is National Preparedness Month. We'll be talking about that. That happens every September to promote family and community disaster and emergency planning. The theme for this year is Prepared, Not Scared. September was chosen for the month due to the 9/11 attacks of 2001. Also due to the fact that the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season falls in mid-September. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about the hurricane season here. But starting with you, Cari, here in the Black Hills in South Dakota, what do we need to be prepared for?
We need to be prepared for winter weather, just the same as tornadoes and, of course, winter storms and the flooding. So obviously fire is an issue as well. It can be at some time too. So all of our natural disasters, the three top man-made ones, we need to be prepared for.
Now, Alexa, here in Pennington County, what are the main things that you guys deal with that people have to be ready for on a regular basis here, or maybe a rare basis here?
Well, regularly, as we have found lots of flooding this summer, lots of weather events that have included a lot of water, whether it be in their basement or out on the roads. So that's been a big one. Large hail, of course, and the same. We have the winter weather. We have all of those kind of events that happen on a regular basis for us, and people are pretty used to those, and sometimes they ignore the forecasts that come and don't take the time to get ready for them ahead of time.
Jeff, up there at the Weather Service, you guys tracking all kinds of storms. What are the most common things that you see here that people have to be ready for, have to think about coming in advance?
Well, since I've lived here, the thing that I've recognized the most is that we have four very distinct seasons here. A lot of parts of the country don't have four seasons. We have summer when we have severe thunderstorms. It can get hot, so heat-related issues, and obviously the hail and the tornadoes and flash flooding are issues in the summertime. As we get into the fall, we remember the October blizzard from not too long ago. And then winter, of course, winter storms, blizzards, extreme cold, followed by a lot of wind a lot of times in the winter and the spring. And then we're back to that convective season is what we call it, where we get our severe thunderstorms and we just continue the cycle. So a lot of things to be prepared for here in western South Dakota.
Now, Cari, we're talking about National Preparedness Month. When we talk about being prepared, what are we talking about?
So we want to be very vigilant in making sure that all of the citizens of South Dakota are prepared. We know that that isn't the case. We do have on our website, beready.sd.gov, a list of things that you can make for an emergency preparedness kit. It spells everything out for everybody, so anybody can go there at any time of the day or night and see what they need to be prepared for their families, for their businesses, for their communities. Also, we really need to be mindful of having children be prepared. We all know that they get hit a lot of times, maybe during the day when they're not with their families, with their parents, but maybe at school. And I've always felt that as long as people know about things, it helps them be a little bit more at ease. And having them be more aware of what happens during a tornado and what do I need to do to be safe during that time, or during a flood, or during winter weather, especially during fire. What do we need to do to make sure that we're safe? I think that giving those children and the youth of our state some good things to be prepared for, and so that they know what they can do, so that they're not so scared, so that they have a means of being a little bit more restful for things that are going to be coming.
So how do you get kids prepared? How do you draw that line between getting kids prepared and not scaring them with what could potentially happen?
Yeah, that is a fine line. You're right, Jack. And one of the things that we found out in our office, in our preparedness branch especially, was that we did not have a good line for keeping children in the know, for letting them be prepared. We were lucky enough to meet up with an author, Ken Elvine, and he helped us design some children's books. Now, the books that we have, the tornado book that we have on tornado weather, on winter storms, on flood, and then on fire safety. Those were all developed with second graders in mind. We did a little research and found out that second graders are often relentless. They get something in their head and they make sure to go home and they kind of hound mom and dad to get things done. And so we targeted to the second graders, and it's been a very good outreach for us. But not only to second graders, but this also goes to the kindergartners all the way up to the 5th grade. One of the things that we have is a Tommy the Turtle mascot, and we can go into schools and help those children be a little bit more prepared for disasters. So we do a lot of presentations. That's all free to any school. They just need to call our office and get that set up.
Now, Lex, at the county level, when you guys think of preparedness, what idea do you mainly want people to get through?
Basically, that being prepared is simple. We have a magnet, and it says right up there at the top, being prepared is simple. There's 10 basic items that we recommend, and a lot of times they're things you already have in your home. You maybe just don't have them located in one place, like an easy-to-grab bag or a little suitcase or something like that. But if you can just get people started on a few simple things that they can do, put in a flashlight, a little bit of food, a little bit of water, a change of clothes, a little bit of cash, some of those basic items that we recommend, just having that will make them better prepared. If they have to stay in their home, oh, we're out of toilet paper, go get it out of the emergency kit, right? Or if we need to leave quickly because there's some fire or tornado, something is coming towards our home and we need to leave quickly. So that's what we want to try to get people to think about. Just do a little bit. Don't have to do it all at one time even. Just start and do a little bit at a time.
Any idea of how many people are prepared compared to the people that are not prepared, that haven't thought this kind of stuff through ahead of time?
I don't think we have a number for that, but we do know every time we have a big storm, so thinking about 2013 you mentioned, a lot of people found out that they didn't have a generator, could not find a generator anywhere in town because that's what everybody wanted. And so I think there's more people prepared. Every time we have something, a large-scale disaster, whether that's a flooding event or a winter storm or whatever it may be, more people go, I should have done something. And now they have taken steps because they don't want to be in that same position again.
Jeff, from the weather perspective, I guess being prepared, knowing what the warnings mean, knowing what the alerts mean.
Right.
What are the terms that people should know and understand ahead of time?
Right. There's a lot of terms that we throw out there, and I know that they can be confusing, but I think probably the two biggest terms are watch and warning. So wintertime, we issue a lot of winter storm watches. That basically means watch out. We're seeing a storm that's developing. It's moving our way. It may be here in 2 or 3 days, but it's not quite here yet. We don't know all the details. But then once we ramp up to that warning level, warning means it's imminent. It's going to happen. It may be, in 2 to 3 hours up to about a day is when we start issuing the warnings, when we have a little bit more idea of what's going to happen. Now, that's winter. The same holds true for, say, convective season. When I say convective season, I talk about thunderstorms and tornadoes and all that. We'll issue severe thunderstorm watches in advance, hopefully in advance of the storms developing. That may come 2, 3, 4 hours before the storms develop. And then once the storms have developed and we're able to detect a possible severe thunderstorm, say, then that's when we actually issue the warning. So essentially watch means time to, whatever you've prepared for, it's time to go ahead and start working on those actions in preparedness. Once the warning is in effect, it is now time to act. There's no more time to prepare yourself once the warning has actually been issued.
So how careful are you guys deciding between whether to put out a warning or a watch so people don't get complacent when you hear a warning? Are you guys judicious about that?
We try to be. So the watch typically comes out first. As I was saying, typically we'll see a storm brewing, maybe a day, or let's just take wintertime, for example. We'll see a storm brewing maybe in the Pacific Ocean. We know it's on its way. All of the computer models are saying, hey, it's, today's Sunday, it's going to be here on Tuesday. That's the time that we would probably put the watch out. So that's giving people, maybe a couple days notice that a storm is on the way. So, it's time to, go out and get fuel for your generators, stock up on the bottled water, the non-perishable goods in your house and so forth. So the watch means it's time to begin preparing for a potential warning. So the watch will usually come a day or two in advance for, say, winter storms. The warning is going to come anywhere from maybe a few hours to a day before the storm actually hits. Now, once we get to summertime or springtime and we get our severe thunderstorm activity, we usually don't have as much advance notice for, let's say, we're not as good saying we're going to have a lot of severe thunderstorms 3 days from now. maybe not quite as good. So usually the severe thunderstorm watch won't come out until maybe noontime or 1 o'clock that afternoon for storms that are going to develop at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So not as much time to prepare, but we're still trying to give you as much advance notice that, hey, storms may be developing this afternoon, and if we issue the warning, then it's time to act and act quickly.
All right, we're going to take a break. We will continue our look at National Preparedness Month when we return with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about National Preparedness Month, which is September. And Alexa White is the Deputy Director of Pennington County Emergency Management, talking about families having a plan. When you say having a plan, what do you mean, and what do families need to get together ahead of time?
Well, besides an emergency kit, I mean, that might be one at home, but that also might be a small one in the car for a teenager or for an adult who goes back and forth to work, whether that's a long distance or short distance, because you never know if you're going to be able to get to where you need to go in a winter storm. And then also having a plan for how you're going to communicate with each other if the regular communication channels are down. So if your cell phones aren't working, good best bet is to try texting. That might work better. And if that doesn't work because of some large-scale disaster, then a landline, finding a business that does have a landline that is working and that you can call either a family friend that's out of town who may not be affected by the disaster, and you all call that same person. But whatever that plan looks like for your family, think about it ahead of time. Think about where the kids may be at school, at daycare, college, whatever that looks like for your family, is to just discuss those things and how that's going to work best for you guys.
Now, Cari Leidholt is the preparedness team leader for the South Dakota Office of Emergency Management, talking about having supplies on hand beforehand. What should you have in terms of stuff, and are the things that people don't think about? Documents, those kind of things that you probably should have access to.
Yep, correct. You always want to have some place to refer to for insurance documents. If you're in a tornado situation and your house gets obliterated from the tornado, a lot of times you're so overwhelmed with everything that you're faced with losing your home that it's who's my insurance company, right? And so just having that stuff written down, having contact names, having contact numbers for you to look at easily, maybe putting those in your cell phone so you have those readily available. Other kinds of documents that you may want to have on hand are medication. You know, what medication do I need, and maybe the prescription number so that they're easily attainable after a disaster. Any type of document that is going to be anything related to you specifically or members of your family that you are that you're taking care of at the time.
How do you get people to take this seriously from not going, I've been around for 50 years, I've never had to need this stuff, why should I worry about it? How do you get people to take it seriously?
That's right. And you know, unfortunately, nobody does until they live through something, right? This whole state this year has been affected by some kind of weather event. And I think that's helped open a lot of people's eyes that, well, maybe I do need to get something in place. Maybe I do need to get something written down because it's happened to my neighbor, it's happened to my friends in a nearby city, so it's getting a little closer to home, and a lot more people in South Dakota are being affected by natural disasters.
Now, Jeff Johnson is a senior forecaster for the National Weather Service. You guys putting out warnings. How much better is the system now, your forecasting ability, than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, to give some advanced warning for this stuff?
Yeah, I think back to 20 years ago is when I started my career with the National Weather Service, actually about 21 years ago. And it's improved, I think, leaps and bounds from where it was 20 years ago. You know, one of the things that we have now, which is pretty cool, we have these models that can actually detect individual thunderstorms developing in, say, maybe 1, 2, 3 hours. They're not perfect, but they start giving us an idea of maybe the types of storms we're going to have. Whether they're going to be more severe thunderstorms with hail and wind, or maybe they're going to be more tornadic or those types of things. Our long-range forecasting has gotten a lot better. I know that the National Weather Service and the United States government has invested a lot of taxpayer dollars in order to improve the computer modeling that we have of the atmosphere. That takes obviously a lot of resources, a lot of computing power. So, you know, the Weather Service and the entire meteorological community has invested a lot of money and time and research into improving the forecasting. I mean, it's really come leaps and bounds. But I say it, we still have a long ways to go. I mean, it's, you know, we put out the severe thunderstorm watch and we say, yeah, we're probably going to have some severe thunderstorms this afternoon, but it becomes really difficult to tell you exactly where those severe thunderstorms are going to be. I mean, the models may tell us, you know, somewhere a storm near Ellsworth or something coming through, when in actuality, when the storm finally comes through, it may be Hermosa. So we still have a long ways to go, but I mean, I think we've improved a lot. And having that human forecaster there in combination with the models that we have, I think improves, you know, helps improve the forecast significantly.
Is this a hard area to forecast some of that stuff? I mean, do you get more surprises here than you would some other places?
We do. We always joke around. In fact, we joke around with our Eastern South Dakota Weather Service offices. We have one in Aberdeen and one in Sioux Falls. And we tell them, you know, if we didn't have this hill sitting here in western South Dakota, our weather would be just like yours out in eastern South Dakota. But we do have the Black Hills, and all of us are aware, you know, that live out here, that there are extreme differences between, you know, the northern Black Hills and the southern Black Hills. I mean, we don't ski in the southern Black Hills. Where do we ski? We ski in the northern Black Hills. That's where more moisture and more precipitation and more snowfall, you know, is able to fall. A lot of the big fires that we can get big fires anywhere, but a lot of them tend to be, if you go back and look at the data, a little bit further to the south, maybe southern Black Hills into southwestern South Dakota. So those hills, having those hills, you know, right here in the middle of the plains definitely creates a challenge for us. But it's a challenge we accept, and, you know, we you know, full steam ahead, we do the best that we can.
Alexa, we talked about what people can do to get ready. What are government agencies like emergency management? What do you guys do to prepare ahead of time?
We make a lot of plans. That's a lot about what we do, and we're not talking about public education and trying to, you know, get the community to prepare ahead of time. Is we're working on plans, whether that be pre-disaster mitigation plans, which we just recently finished up, or debris management plans for when the big thing does happen. It creates all this trash or debris that you got to do something with, whether that's trees or buildings or whatever that is, so that we can think things through. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. We have to create plans that cover a broad scope of what could happen. And because the perfect storm isn't, you can't say this is exactly how it's going to happen,
Right.
It's going to hit here, but you have to think ahead about what that may look like for your critical infrastructure, your schools, your, you know, whatever that looks like in your community. And so that's what we spend a lot of time doing in non-disaster times.
All right, we got to take another break. We'll continue our look at National Preparedness Month, which is September, when we continue with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about National Preparedness Month, which is September. Jeff Johnson is a senior forecaster with the National Weather Service. What is the best way for people to get weather information? How do you get those warnings out and make sure people don't miss them?
Right, so the first part of your question, you know, basically how we issue the warnings, how we get them out. We have systems in place at our office. Once we've detected, let's say, a severe thunderstorm, once the decision has been made to issue a warning for that severe thunderstorm, we'll have it out in a matter of seconds, you know, less than a minute certainly. And then the communication systems kick in once we hit the send button. You know, all the communications go out to the emergency managers. There's a network for the emergency managers to get their information. There's a network that the information is sent to the media. It's sent to the public as well. So there's lots of ways that information gets out. One of the things that we do, we actually activate a lot of times the emergency alert system, the EAS. If you've ever heard that, you know, the tones that come out followed by the long tone. That's actually usually, if it's a weather warning, that's originated from our office. So say in the event of a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning or a flash flood warning, once you hear those kind of bells and whistles, we call them, going off, it is time to start acting. So that's the way that we initiate getting the information out, and it goes to a broad level of audience. I mean, it's a lot more now than it was, let's say, 20 years ago, because now we have something called wireless emergency alerts. I think most people are somewhat familiar with now, that they can get those on their phone. Say that there's a flash flood warning in Rapid City or Gillette or Pierre. People in that area are going to receive that alert on their phone. You know, the information is readily available on the internet. Social media has become huge. We automate all of our warnings, our severe thunderstorm, tornado warnings, flash flood warnings. We automate that on Twitter. So if you're following our Twitter feed, you're going to get those almost immediately. It's a very robust system, and the information, I mean, it gets out incredibly quickly.
Now, Cari Leidholt is the preparedness team leader for the South Dakota Office of Emergency Management. What's available at the state level? What can the state do? And I guess just importantly, what can't the state do in terms of emergencies?
So at the state level, we are there to support the county emergency managers. At that point, what we can do is help support them in their developing of their plans that they do within their counties. We sponsor a lot of trainings, and we also have a lot of exercise help on different disasters that may occur in a county. We have folks at our office that can go out and help those county emergency managers. We would love a call to say, hey, we would like you to come and help us. We'll be right there to do so. We have some business continuity opportunities to help those businesses make some plans. And what happens when their business goes down? What can they do? Where can they go? What can they tell their employees? One of the other things that we can do is we go out and do preparedness presentations to service groups, to church groups, to any type of organization that's looking for that. All you have to do is call our office, and we'll make sure that we can get somebody out to help you.
Now, Alexa White is the Deputy Director of Pennington County Emergency Management. You have an event coming up to highlight awareness. What can you tell me about that?
So this year is our 11th annual Disaster Awareness and Safety Day. We've got this on our social media and our website. But we started this when September became this National Preparedness Month. We wanted to bring attention to that. So this year's theme, it'll be at Main Street Square on Sunday, September 8th. The theme is be prepared for zombies, and you're prepared for anything. So not as scary, it's a family event. We have a fun zombie maze that we might find a little zombie in there, but not a scary one. But we have a lot of our responders in the community who are there, and different agencies that have safety messaging that is pertinent either in a disaster or day-to-day safety emergency type messaging. And it's a really fun event just to come out, free hot dogs, spend the Sunday afternoon walking around and learning a little bit about how you can prepare and take better care of your family possibly in case of a disaster.
Now, if somebody wants more information, they want to know what they should be doing, is there a place they can go to gather all that information in one spot?
Yep, our website is rcpcem.com, and you can go there and find out all of our stuff that we talk about, our planning and our brochures that we have that are available about Disaster Awareness Day. It's all right there.
How about you, Jeff? Does the Weather Service have some place, kind of a central place that people can go and check out what the warnings, what the watches, what all of those things mean?
We do, actually, and it's a pretty simple site to remember. It's weather.gov, not weather.com, weather.gov/safety. And that'll take you to a page that has all sorts of safety brochures and information, extending from extreme cold to extreme heat to blizzards to hurricanes if you're heading, to a coastal region. It's lightning safety, all sorts of information on that page.
How about at the state level, Cari? What do you guys have available that people can go get?
You bet. We have beready.sd.gov, and that'll give you family preparedness, it'll give you children and youth preparedness, it'll give you disaster recovery information as well.
All right, so hopefully we won't need any of this, but chances are, how often are you guys drawn into business to act?
If you're talking about like the Emergency Operations Center being activated, this year we've had a few more opportunities than we do in a normal year. I would say once or twice, but the Emergency Operations Center has different levels of activation. It could be just Dustin, our director, or myself from home or in our vehicles, to a full-blown 24-hour operations where we have logistics and planning and the whole thing.
All right, we are out of time. Cari Leidholt, Alexa White, Jeff Johnson, thank you guys for coming. And again, Emergency Preparedness Month, be prepared. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again the first Sunday night of next month. Good night.